Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're going to be joined by Aaron Klein, senior reporter for WorldNet Daily and host of the Aaron Klein Investigative Radio Show. But first, we had Mike Morell, former director, acting director, and the CIA, in studio yesterday, and I want you to watch and hear what he had to say. Was the attack on the Benghazi embassy about, and was it all related to transferring weapons?
I don't think it had anything to do with transferring weapons.
Did it have anything to do with the video?
We don't know. Right?
We still don't know?
We don't know. We don't know. What the analysts said at the time was that they thought that what happened in Benghazi was a copycat attack of what happened in Cairo, right? My chief of station in Tripoli speculated that one of the reasons might have been the video. We are not going to know for sure, Steve, until we capture enough of these guys who were actually there that night, who actually committed murder that night, and have them talk to us and tell us why they did it.
All right, well, Aaron Klein is smiling. Aaron, welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
He went on to say, when I asked him about the DIA document that talked about how this was pre-planned and it was an organized attack, which, by the way, James Woolsey, former head of the CIA, just told me a little while ago he has confidence in. He said that that's just a small one person's opinion, doesn't mean anything. So you wrote about this extensively at WND.com.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, he claims in his book, I have nothing against Mike Morell, but he says that the attacks evidence little to no advanced planning. Well, first of all, just in the last 24-48 hours, Judicial Watch released documents that, unfortunately for Mike Morell, according to the Pentagon, said that the attacks were planned at least 10 days in advance.
Right, the DIA document.
Yeah, and what Mike Morell, who, by the way, I point out now works at Beacon Strategies, which is close to Hillary Clinton, and also I point out that he is not a bystander in the whole Benghazi conflict. He was involved, allegedly, in the Talking Points scandal. In fact, he was fingered in the Talking Points scandal, so he has certain personal things at stake, perhaps. So he's saying little to no advanced planning. DOD says planning, but just think about this logically. Little to no advanced planning, then a bunch of terrorists show up at a facility.
On 9/11.
On 9/11, evidence insider knowledge of the facility, according to former members of the CIA, according to congressmen, senators who've been briefed. They erect checkpoints around the facility. The Americans had to go through these checkpoints, which evidence is planning. And then they happen to know where a secretive CIA annex is located. And then they have mortar strikes that hit the roof of the CIA building. Now, I know a lot about mortar strikes because I live in Tel Aviv and we face them sometimes. You don't just take mortars and fire them and happen to hit the exact trajectory, the exact distance. A lot of planning, yeah. A lot of planning. There's no way, just logically, it makes sense that this had little to no advanced planning.
Okay, now we find out from the New York Times about a couple of released Hillary emails.
Indeed.
That Sidney Blumenthal, who the State Department said, no, he can absolutely not work in your State Department, Hillary. So Sidney Blumenthal is in contact with Hillary Clinton, and after Benghazi tells her, hey, this was no video thing. This was, as you just described, everything you just described. It was pre-planned, why it was pre-planned, it was a terrorist attack. Yet, Hillary, to this day, sticks by, it was probably the video.
And of course, don't forget that she and Obama went on Pakistani television.
Yes.
$75,000 in taxpayer funds to apologize for a video that at that time the Muslim world wasn't so familiar with. So it kind of incited the Islamic world against a video that almost nobody knew anything about. It shows evidence that it wasn't really mentioned on Twitter, on Facebook. But also, interestingly, in the Hillary emails, we haven't seen all of them because the New York Times is only explaining, but it seems, I mean, they're talking about the exact movements of the ambassador. Why was that not classified? Which raises larger questions about a lot of documents found at the Benghazi facility, also not classified.
And another email that the New York Times talked about showed that the ambassador, as we had inklings of, I think 14 months before the attack, expressed concern in emails to Hillary about security there.
Not only that, but actually it was Hillary's top deputies, like Kennedy and others, who had these shock denials of security by the ambassador, by his team. No guard towers. They pulled a special support team that exists for the very reason of responding to attack.
And terrorists were guarding the hen house, weren't they?
Which is the largest question here. Yeah. Until we get an answer to that, why in the world, not American Marines, by the way, if they were classified documents, the Marines would have had to have protected it.
Right.
Is that why the documents weren't classified? but the Martyrs of the February 17th Brigade, which is an arm of Ansar al-Sharia, which took responsibility for the attack. Why were they protecting that facility?
And that would make complete sense when you talk about you need knowledge, intimate knowledge of the facility. If they're guarding it, and then they have intimate knowledge of the facility.
And by the way, actually, according to the ARB, the State Department's investigation of the attack, it was the Martyrs of the February 17th Brigade that left some gas canisters the night before that were then used in the initial explosions of the attack. So were they involved in the pre-planning? Did they give the attackers insider knowledge of Ambassador Stevens?
Let me give you Hillary's answer.
Sure.
What difference does it make?
Amazingly.
Listen, Aaron, great to see you.
You too.
Read him at WND.com. Listen to him on Aaron Klein Investigative Radio here in New York and throughout the country on Salem. And we're coming back. Gimme 5, a tribute to David Letterman. You're not going to want to miss this tribute.